an author, an actor, a painter, and you do everything. How are you, Ione Skye?
I'm so good. I'm so happy to be here finally with you sitting here. I'm really well.
Oh, this is great. Thank you for coming. I read your book, Say Everything.
Yeah. Catchy title.
Yeah, no, it is. It's really, the book is fantastic. I was blown away by it. I read it so fast. It was one of those ones where you're just like, oh no, I'm getting toward the end. And you're just like, I want more of this book. But what, are you going to write a phone book? No, at some point I had to accept we get about 290 and you're out.
Yeah, I wrote more, but you know, I don't know. I like to follow rules, so I just made it the kind of length that people want, I guess. But yeah, but you were one of the first and only people I asked advice of and talked to you about writing a memoir. So I feel like, I don't know, it's nice to see you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, because it was a couple years ago, I think, right?
Yeah.
Probably a good 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You were working on the book, and I had done my book, so I had it's its own thing, though, isn't it?
Yes.
Isn't it such a strange experience when you do a book?
Yes. It reminded me of like before I had kids, when parents would look at you and say like, it's a big experience, but you don't know exactly what they mean until you do it. And like when I talked to you about writing your book, and the only other person I talked to for some weird reason was Flea, but the way
I need to take that in. Hold on. So the two people who gave you advice on writing a memoir, me and Flea.
It's so weird because I'm not like super tight with Flea these days, and you and I are new friends, but it just so happened that that's how the chips fell. And you know, when you're writing it, you're very careful also about who you talk to about it, because you don't want, even what you're reading, you know, you just don't want like advice that's going to throw you off. But yeah, the way I think both of you, like I could tell you had a huge experience in writing it and putting it out, but you don't know until you do it. And then you're like, oh, now I understand. You almost can't explain.
It really is the kind of thing that until you've gone through that door, you can only kind of imagine what it feels like. Every feeling came up when I did the book, and I went through so many ups and downs, and I'm doubting myself. I feel like, am I taking my life and my stories and turning them into laughs for other people? Am I making myself a clown for everybody to laugh at the failures and mistakes I've made through my life?
Yeah.
And then also the things you don't want to be too serious with it. You know, I didn't want to be too flippant with it. And like, how did you strike that balance?
Yeah. I didn't want to, you know, I didn't want it to be like, you know, the phoenix rising from the ashes classic story. I didn't want it to be moralistic. I didn't want it to be, you know what I mean? Like too heavy, but of course it's going to be heavy at parts. But yeah, I also, you know, I wanted to be as funny as Carrie Fisher, but knew I wouldn't. But, you know, I don't know. You just hope, that it strikes all the things, I guess. But it's true. I was kind of just like nose to the grindstone and trying to just do it and not think about it too much. But yeah, for sure, it's like so many ups and downs. Yeah.
Did you find like what were like low points? What were those low points for you? Because you're somebody who, the book is very honest and very forthright, but you're somebody has not been like you've not had a career of oversharing. You've led a relatively private life with. Yes.
So on one hand, I like the people who know me very closely know that I'm kind of like just like eccentric, and I do tell everything to them in a way that's like funny but also very disarming and open. But and maybe being from LA, like LA people kind of do talk a lot about themselves, so I do have that side, you know, like I'm kind of not an East Coaster or a private whatever that much. But Yeah, I don't know. I guess I like, once I put it out, then I was like, oh shit, you know. But when I was doing it, I was just very determined to just make a good book if I could.
Yeah.
So then once it's now, I'm like, oh my God, I have really told people about myself, and now I feel a little vulnerable.
Sure, because for me, the scariest part of this whole thing, when I did my book, I wrote the book, and I was like, it comes out in, was it July, whenever it came out. I was like, I know it comes out in July. I'm just like, and it was January, and then someone sent me an email. They're like, hey, I read your book, and I was like, what, how? And they were like, oh, I got a galleys of it or something. Right. And I was not ready for somebody to say, because it was still my, they were my stories.
Yes.
Because there's a point when it's just like, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Right.
These belong to everybody now.
Yeah. Well, how is it now that you've had a couple years away from it? Like, is it that initial thing of, oh, wow, I have said my story? Is it like you've internalized it or whatever?
It was the best experience.
Okay,
it really
cool.
was. There was I was wondering what could be a downside with it, and it never showed up.
Oh, great. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I'm tempting. It's like,
no.
Here's like, here comes the downside.
Yeah, no.
No, it really was it was like taking a backpack off.
Yeah.
With all these stories. And
yeah.
And how did you decide? Because you talk about a lot of things. You talk about relationships. You talk about sex stuff. You talk about your portion of relationships not working, and you're very human in the book in that way. And the people around you, did you have to kind of prep people? It's like, no, this isn't just me telling 15 funny stories, and that's going to be it. It's not easy breezy.
Yeah, that is a scary part where you just like, trust me, it's going to be okay. Like, I won't take you down. And people who know me hopefully would know that. But I kept my mother close. Like, I gave her the book a lot and early, just, but it was like, no notes, no creative notes, but just tell me if you're comfortable.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then a couple of people, I asked them, are you okay with this? And kind of legally, if something's out in the open, if somebody's like, Anthony Kiedis already had his book out, so I didn't really have to worry about that. But I'm a little, thinking about his mom and stuff like that. But yeah, I think I was concerned about a couple things, but they say you're not the things that you think are gonna be an issue won't, and then something might surprise you.
Yeah.
So I think that's been the case, but so far so good.
Well, you also tell the stories you tell. If you're talking about, say, Anthony Kiedis, who you were in a relationship for a couple of years, everything you talk about is in relation to yourself. You're not just doing the dirt on this guy just to tell stories.
Yeah,
it's your story in relation to this person.
Yes, exactly.
So it felt completely fair to me, everything you talk about. And you also, it's a very kind book. For as revealing as it is, you're very kind with that, and you always are owning your portion of whatever the thing was. It's never just like, this person was a demon and I was 100% innocent. Yeah. It's like, all these things are messy, and I mean, you land right where you should have landed with it.
Yeah. I don't think it's like very bitter, which sort of goes down a little easier if it's more just, there's a lot of like longing and hurt and things like that, but it's not super bitter. And yeah, I definitely wanted to have, there's so much relationship stuff, because like, I used to think if I put the amount of energy I put into relationships in my career, I would have been way bigger, because I just like was so ambitious about my dating life compared to I did pretty well, but I wanted to make sure there was enough. Well. I did pretty well. I wanted enough like stories about work, because I love like reading books, like yours is so cute. It's so interesting to me, like how people's, the business goes for them. But yeah, that was something I had to like almost concentrate on more to get that in there too. Yeah, because you talk about how you grew up in Los Angeles. You're an LA kid through and through. But there's something that was so interesting to me, is like you had
look, everybody throws Nepo baby around with a thing, but you had half of that, but not the other half, which is the piles of money.
Right.
Like you had the lineage.
Yeah.
But your family was truly grinding it out to keep the lights on.
Yeah. My mom was a single mom and she just did odd jobs, all sorts of, waitress. She drove a limo at one point. She was a pot dealer, like all these different things. Had roommates to help pay the rent. But it's funny, my father's name, Donovan, did help. Actually, I think a little bit because there's some mystique and lore and people are interested in it. So I did get some benefit, but from that. But then, I didn't. In the beginning, I didn't like when I did interviews and they were like, "How was it growing up with Donovan?" And I didn't know what to say because even though he wasn't around, I didn't want to like upset him or ruin his legacy, right? So I would say, "I grew up with my mom and it was great." And they're like, "But what about?" And so anyway. But but it's funny that his name actually helped a little in a weird way at first. It felt like at least it was interesting to people. Like Cameron Crowe, who loves music, I think that made me more interesting to him.
It gives you just a little entry point that you can talk
even though
about.
My dad wasn't helping me, but then that lore, whatever, is good.
There is a part of one thing that I feel that if I was to clarify the idea of when you don't have come from a family that makes art and that understands what, to me, that is the hardest part. It's not even, everybody has to earn their thing once it gets rolling. Maybe you get help with the first thing, and then from that point on, nobody's going to keep throwing you things.
No.
But the one part that is challenging is that, for me, I can speak for myself, telling my family that I wanted to write, they were just like, what is that? Like, how are you, like the idea of working in the arts, I might as well have said I wanted to go to Mars.
Yeah.
Because it seems there's no frame of reference. And that is like the one thing that I do think people who grew up with relatives, family who were already in the arts, they at least understand the idea. Oh, I want to act. Okay, I know what that is.
Yes.
It's a small hurdle, but it is a hurdle.
Yes.
And to me, that's really what you can kind of shrink the whole Nepo baby thing down to. That's the only thing I believe that it is. It's just like there's that first thing when you want to tell your family, I'm going to try to do this, and nobody knows what you're talking about. Yeah. So, but it's very easy. Some people get so hung up on that stuff that it's it's almost like they're mad past a point. It's like, well, this is just you're arguing with yourself now. Right. It has nothing to do with the person whose parent was an actor or whatever.
Right. Exactly.
So when you decided you wanted to act, you came about it in a very, like, you were not the type A, get it thing.
I gotta sing and dance. I wasn't like that. I was doing that like in my room, and I was like obsessed with, like whatever, musicals, and I don't know, I love movies, and the Z Channel was like an amazing thing in LA, and I just like loved whatever. There was always like, Rear Window and whatever was on TV. Like I loved Hollywood, but I wasn't like, I've got to do that. I was a shy artist, drawing, writing in my room. But when I got to this set, I got that movie, River's Edge, when I was 15. My brother kind of corralled me into the audition. It was just amazing. And that was just so fun because I wasn't liking high school. I mean, I was just like an insecure teenager. So I was sort of like, I hope I can do this. But I knew it was a naturalistic film. I could see they wanted like natural acting. Yeah. And I was like, I can do that.
And what did that power feel like that you were tapping into? Like, because suddenly it's a huge leap to suddenly say, well, I'm going to become another person in front of strangers. Yeah. And other people are going to also become somebody they're not. But what did that feel like for you? Like I can do this. Like, what was that rush like?
Yeah, that's right. Like, it was like a rush. I mean, it was simultaneously just I hope I'm, so nervous. And I still am like that, of course. Like, with acting, you hope you're like, rising to the occasion and doing the right thing. But yeah, it was like very nervous about it. But also I loved playing and I did love doing that. And I was like, obviously, I guess I had a natural thing to do it. So that was incredible. And just learning lines was so easy as a kid. You know what I mean?
As a kid, you're in the culture of that. Who did you, like, what were your celebrity encounters you had as a kid? Like, did you see somebody at the grocery store? Just like little things like that.
Yeah. Who did I ever see? I mean, I never saw anyone that I like wanted to see because it's so
it never
funny.
Works that
yeah.
way, no.
Like as a kid, my crush was Scott Baio, which is like the pits politically.
Yeah, you can back up on that one. Yeah.
But at the time, it was just because Foxes and Bugsy Malone.
Sure.
And like as I was just like, oh, he was so cute in Foxes on a skateboard. But now, oh my God. But I would never see him walking around. But like my mom had like Ian Charleson is this Scottish actor who was in Chariots of Fire. Because my mom had a lot of gay friends. So he was around English gay friends. So that was always, who my mom dated? It was really exciting. Cleavon Little from Blazing Saddles.
Wow.
Not like a long term, but he came over a couple times when Blazing Saddles. So, I mean, that is the cool, and once Shirley from Laverne and Shirley came over for a brunch and all the kids were following her around. And I think she's a private person. And she looked like she hated us because we were just like following her around because she was on Laverne and Shirley. And she was just like, oh my God, I got to get out of here.
Yeah. No, you guys were to her
annoying.
What Lenny and Squiggy were to Laverne and Shirley.
Yes.
These annoying kids.
Yeah.
And also with that, there was a point when the show started in, was it Milwaukee? It took place in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Then like 5 seasons in, Laverne and Shirley moved to Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah.
And then Lenny and Squiggy moved to the same building. Oh, my God. That would be, you just call the cops on
my
that.
God.
Right? Suddenly
So
like,
true.
These guys followed us 2,500 miles.
Oh, yeah.
They're living in the same building as, and they still throw our door open and, hello.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That is so funny.
So, so but the culture is in the air, movies are in the air, you get in touch with that. But music, it seems like it was just, music is running through this whole book.
Yes.
Your love of music, your love of musicians, your lineage with musicians,
Yeah.
all of that. What was some of the first music that you